morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at the best Pokemon deck in the world, or at least the very best Pokemon deck at a 1,300-person Champions League this past weekend, bearing in mind that organised play with championship points and all of that has not actually returned yet to most countries. That means that when we're looking at big official tournaments, Japan is the place to look. We need to go and look at Japan. They are going to be the people that actually inform us as to what the best decks were. And wonderful, wonderful news, ladies and gentlemen, it's Ice Ride Calyrex. And anytime we talk about Ice Ride Calyrex, it gives me an excuse to use the amazing Okacheke artwork on the alternate art V, and that makes me very happy indeed. So, what is this deck and why is it so good? The thing is, when we start bringing in the more recent sets, there isn't a huge amount of stuff from it. This is a deck that is not entirely, but largely still legal in our format, although there are a couple of cards that have gone and rotated. We'll get to them, you have been warned. But it is largely built around Ice Ride Calyrex V Max. The V is, shall we say, not the main reason we're actually playing the deck. We're playing it because of the V Max. Because for 2 energy, you do 10 damage, not good. But then you have the opportunity to discard up to 2 water energy from it, doing an extra 120 damage for each one discarded. So you can do up to 250 damage, but you can also just discard 1 and do 130 damage if that's the kind of thing you're into. Either way, this is pretty gosh darned cool. And this is the main attacker in the deck. This is where you're really going for it. Only a 2-2 line because most of the time that is going to be enough. You might see some issues with prizes, but when you win a 1,300 person tournament, you can probably be fairly confident in the consistency of the deck. You do also have Ride of the High King, 2 energy, 10 damage, plus 30 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. With a full bench, that's 160. It's not the main reason you're playing the card, you're playing it for Max Lance, but it's a nice little bonus anyway. And yes, obviously we're playing it with Inteleon. Why would we not be playing it with Inteleon? You see, ladies and gentlemen, nowadays you should be used to this. Inteleon is phenomenal. The thing is, it's actually the entire Inteleon line that's phenomenal, which is one of the reasons Inteleon sees so much actual play. You've got the Sobble that lets you search for free basic Rapid Strike Pokemon and put them on your bench. And okay, fine, the only Rapid Strike Pokemon you're playing that are basics are other Sobble, but that doesn't matter, you can multiply those Sobble quickly. You've then got your Stage 1 Drizzile that when you evolve into it lets you search for any trainer card and put it into your hand, giving you great consistency. And then this list actually plays a full 4-4-4 Inteleon line with a 2-2 Inteleon split. So we got 2 of the Inteleon from Sword and Shield with Shady Dealings, lets you search for 2 trainer cards when you evolve into it, which is Redonk for consistency. And then we've got 2 of the Inteleon from Chilling Reign, which lets you place 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon once per turn. Because essentially you're already doing big damage for little energy with Ice Ride Calyrex. Now being able to put a bit of extra damage around the field with Inteleon can make a huge difference. The other one that should stand out to you a little bit here, though, is 3 copies of Suicune V, which is more than we would generally expect. And Suicune V is fine, but really it's the ability here. The ability says that once during your turn, while it's your active Pokemon, you get to draw a card. That means in the early game, if you've got nothing else going on, draw a card. It means after you get a Pokemon KO'd, when you just need to put something in the active, put this active. You'll draw a card. It means anytime you can switch, you can draw a card. It means throughout the remainder of the game, you will get to draw a bunch of cards. But it's also super annoying for your opponent. You see, I told you that Ice Ride Calyrex V Max has an attack that relied on the amount of bench Pokemon your opponent had, but so does Suicune V. Blizzard Rondo does 20 damage base, plus 20 more for each bench Pokemon, yours and your opponent's. Yeah. So if they've got a full bench and you've got a full bench and you can fill your bench, and to be fair, in an Inteleon deck like this, you will fill your bench, that's 220. And 220 is the magic number to KO the vast majority of Pokemon V. So either you're going to get key KOs of Suicune V, or you're going to make your opponent control their bench, because Ice Ride Calyrex VMAX right at a High King really isn't that terrifying. It's not going to terrify you into controlling your bench like that. This might. And even when it's not doing anything along those lines, it's still drawing you extra cards. It is a phenomenal card. Love to see it here. We've then got one copy of Crobat V for some extra draw power if you're having a bad start, and one copy of Marshadow to get rid of stadiums. Obviously, please do remember that Marshadow has rotated out. A lot of decks were playing it. Now those decks can't play it anymore. Gutted, I suppose. It's not a reason to not play the deck, but do please be aware of it. Obviously, in terms of energy, we're just playing water energy, 8 to be specific. That shouldn't really surprise anyone, because we got ways to accelerate them, etc. Now, moving over into your trainer cards, the supporter line is pretty much what we would expect. We've got a couple copies of Professor's Research. Discard your hand, draw 7 cards, it's fast and aggressive. 2 copies of Marnie, both players shuffle their hands and put them on the bottom of the deck. You get 5 cards, your opponent gets 4. Draw cards while disrupting. 3 copies of Melanie, and Melanie's huge here. Melanie attaches a water energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon V and draw 3 cards. Incidentally, this is how you can get away with playing 2 Professor's Research and 2 Marnie. You're drawing cards with Suicune. You're searching out trainers with your Inteleon line, and then you're playing Melanie as your supporter for the turn. So yeah, you are going to play fewer of your traditional draw supporters because Melanie is so important here. You've then got a couple copies of Boss's Orders for a bit of gusting, and 1 copy of Raihan. This is another one of those new cards. Again, there's not a huge amount of new cards here, but there are a few. You'll notice, though, they're not from sets that are only out in Japan. They're out over here. They're from Evolving Skies. And Raihan, if you had a Pokemon knocked out during your opponent's last turn, you attach an extra basic energy, and then search your deck for any card. Well, bearing in mind, we're talking here about a 2-energy Pokemon where you have to keep discarding both the energy to do maximum damage. Which means that you're going to consistently need to attach an extra energy. That's where Melanie comes in, and that's where Raihan comes in. They will get you that extra energy, and also searching any card is great. Your stadium of choice here is Path to the Peak, because, frankly, you don't care about abilities, but your opponent might. Now, when I say you don't care about abilities, do remember that Path to the Peak will turn off Suicune, and that's not ideal, because it's a Pokemon with a rule box, but it won't turn off your Inteleon, which is far more important, and it's the case of, if your opponent needs it more than you do, you play Path to the Peak to shut down their abilities. Otherwise, you take advantage of Suicune. And like I've said, Suicune is still a legitimate attacker that is going to either make your opponent control their bench or give you cheeky 2-prize KOs. So this isn't like your traditional drawing Pokemon where if it's turned off in terms of ability, it's useless, because you absolutely will get some cheeky KOs with Suicune. It's why I love the card so much. Yes, it's going to draw you extra cards, and yes, that's amazing, but also, it's just brilliant in terms of 220 is such a key number, so your opponent either can't fill their bench, or if they do fill their bench, you can get cheeky KOs on Pokemon V, and even if they leave like 1 bench space, you can still KO stuff like Crobat. It's so good! Now, moving over to item cards, we got 4 Quick Ball and 3 Level Ball. None of this should be particularly surprising. Quick Ball searches your basics, Level Ball searches your 90 HP or less Pokemon, which includes Drizzile, which is huge, because then Level Ball gets you Drizzile, which gets you Supporter, for instance. We do have a couple copies of Pokemon Communication, which has rotated out and will need to be replaced. I apologise, but there's other Pokemon Search. It's not the end of the world. 2 copies of Evolution Incense, which gets your Evolution Pokemon, which is great. 2 copies of Capacious Bucket, which goes and searches out your water energy, which can either be attached or then discarded to be attached with your supporters, etc., which is awesome. Couple copies of Reset Stamp. Now, this has also rotated out for us, which is not ideal, but it has rotated out for everybody. It's awkward because obviously this is a deck that wants to be able to come from behind with reset stamp. 2 copies is not insignificant, but it's one of those losses everyone's had to take, so I'm sorry. We've got a copy of Fan of Waves. It's just a little bit of hate for special energy. It's a one-of, it's a tech, but it's fun to have. 1 copy of Super Scoop Up, which can be, Scoop Up Net. Super Scoop Up was an older card, which can be used to reuse. It's basically there to pick up and reuse Inteleon, right? Which is brilliant, because you get your Drizzile use again and your Inteleon, which is awesome. And do remember that if you use Inteleon from Chilling Reign, you can pick it up, evolve a Drizzile into it that's on the bench, and then use it again. It's a cheeky way to get 2 uses with the same Inteleon. We got a copy of Air Balloon for free retreat, or it reduces it by 2, but, you know, you're giving free retreat. And you're largely going to want to have this on Suicune so that you can get in and out the active drawing cards, and that's rather lovely. And then finally, 1 copy of Cape of Toughness, which just gives basic Pokemon an extra 50 HP when you're attacking with Suicune. And like I've said, there will be plenty of games where you are attacking with Suicune. It's nice for draw, but it's a legit attacker. This is going to be huge, because something like Ice Ride Calyrex V Max hits 250. And you're then going to have 260. And yeah, I know your day's going to be ruined by Inteleon, but there are going to be plenty of times this stops you getting KO'd where you otherwise would be. And that, my friends, is very nice indeed. So there we go. It's Ice Ride Calyrex. It's been a weird one. When it first came out, it was very hyped. Then it seemed like it was a step below a lot of the other top-tier decks. It's been doing very well in post-rotation tournaments online, but it's gone and taken down a 1,300-person Champions League. And I think this is about the time where we really need to be asking the question, is this the very best deck in the game? And the answer might be yes, the answer might be no, but the important thing from my point of view, it is definitely a legitimate question. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.